I deeply love the student body, and the student body has given so much to me. And my priesthood has been changed and impacted as a result of coming to know them. I genuinely mean it with every fiber of my being. What has allowed for my priesthood to be as joyful as it is because of the Notre Dame students.
From the campus of Our Lady's University, this is For Good, Stories from Notre Dame, a behind-the-scenes glimpse into life under the Golden Dome and the powerful stories that drive Notre Dame to become a force for good in the world. Hello and welcome to For Good, Stories from Notre Dame. If you've attended a Notre Dame football game recently, you've probably noticed a fascinating phenomenon. Students raucously cheering when the campus ministry message plays in the stadium's video board. While Notre Dame students are certainly enthusiastic about their faith lives, the reason they're cheering is because of their strong connection to and deep reverence for the person shown in those video messages, Father Pete McCormick, the Assistant Vice President who leads campus ministry at Notre Dame. We are blessed to have Father Pete with us today. Thanks so much for joining us, Father Pete. And just really, I got to ask, is at the end of the fourth quarter, the start of the fourth quarter, you come up on the screen announcing the mass times after the game. The students go wild. Every time your face appears on the screen, that's got to make you feel squeamish or really beaming with pride deep inside. How do you feel about that? And tell us about the tradition of campus ministry and the masses right after the games.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the most unanticipated outcomes of a video that perhaps has ever existed. You know, we thought about this video as a way to kind of participate in the larger video board when it ultimately came out. And there was a curious thing that occurred when the mass video dropped. That the first time there was like, every time I appeared, like there was this little like rise in decibels from the student body.
Not little. It's very noticeable.
And slowly over the years, it's kind of built to a thing.
Yeah.
In a way that like, and sometimes people will ask me, well, how'd you get students to do that? And I'm like, I have no idea. And if that's the case, if I had those powers, I would focus their attention on a few other things as well. But you know, what's really been fascinating is how it is that this particular advertisement is an opportunity to genuinely communicate the importance of Mass here at the university.
Right.
And you had mentioned, like, what do those Masses look like?
Yeah.
You know, what we really have is an awesome opportunity to evangelize. So you think about 80,000 people in a stadium, and by and large, there's two Masses that are more broadly serviceable to campus in the Basilica, and then also in the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center. Yeah. And then we also have a series of residence hall Masses that people flock to. And so how cool of a witness that it is that we're able to compete at the highest of levels. Yeah. And then at the same time to invite people to a truly transformative spiritual experience. And that's just on Saturday, then going into Sunday as well.
Right. It is extraordinary. And the fact that this comes in the middle of a football game, it's bringing the sacred into the sport world. And so tell me a little bit about their reverence for you is, I'm sure, hard for you to speak to, but it shows how you're able to connect to these students so incredibly well. And I know that wasn't planned whatsoever. But how many Masses are there? How many fans go to Mass the weekend or right after the game through Sunday, you know?
Yeah, so we have, in any given weekend, we have 2 that immediately follow the game, assuming it's not a night game.
Okay.
And then we have 3 in the Basilica the next day. So right out of the gate in DPAC and the Basilica, you have a total of 5.
Okay.
But then in addition, and that's just in the morning up until about noon.
Yeah.
And then we have also a number of residence hall Masses, which probably floats between 5 and 8.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. And what's really fascinating about how this integrates into the University of Notre Dame is you think about the broader Catholic perspective and understanding. It's about integration.
Yes.
It's not about compartmentalization. It's about competing. It's about learning. It's about praying. It's about allowing God to be a part of all of those elements. And so I love deeply the fact that we're able to weave those together and really truly offer the disorienting dilemma to your typical fan who's probably coming in, wanting to come to Notre Dame for a really long time and is having this experience. And now now they're sitting there in the midst of all the hype that comes with the start of the fourth quarter. There's also this invitation, maybe even a curious invitation to Mass. Yeah. And then seeing the student reaction to it just speaks about what makes Notre Dame so unique and so amazing. Yeah. As to my connection to students, the thing that I always want people to know is that I deeply love the student body, and the student body has given so much to me. And so if I genuinely had the ability, and maybe this is my moment here on this podcast, to be able to mirror back the love and affection that they show in those particular instances, I would do it, because my priesthood has been changed and impacted as a result of coming to know them genuinely, truly. And I'm not just saying that. Right. I genuinely mean it with every fiber of my being. What has allowed for my priesthood to be as joyful as it is because of the Notre Dame students. Yeah, well, it's so, for any of us who know you, you know that it's genuine, and you wouldn't be able to reach these students if it weren't 100% sincere. But you're a priest of the students. So you ride your bike around campus all the time, joyfully saluting, waving, stopping with your bike, impromptu. You play pickup basketball games. You're still very athletic. And then you're, what is this, like Dr. McSwish or something? You do playlists, and you spin discs and so forth. You can relate. How is it that it's almost like you're still in college, there's a great episode in The West Wing where, President Bartlett, who's like struggling with his role in the office and the election, at one point, his chief of staff, Leo McGarry, slides over a napkin and he writes, "Let Bartlett be Bartlett," with this understanding that you got to let him run the type of campaign that he wants to run. Right. And I've always thought about that freedom that comes with authentically living the vocation that you possess. And so I sometimes think about, you got to let McCormick be McCormick. I'm not going to be your typical expectation of what a priest is, but this is what I love about the Congregation of Holy Cross. It's a collection of a variety of people and personalities. If you look back in our history and even to the present day, and that allowance for communal individuality is what really, I think, makes the congregation so impactful. And so I get the chance to ride around my bike and to say hello to people. One of my responsibilities that I've placed upon myself is that I want every student, whenever I possibly can, to believe that as I was passing by, I saw them and I said hello. Yeah. And that's something like I could easily get caught up in my own thoughts, my own list of things to do that day. Yeah. But I really do believe that it's absolutely critical to say hello. It costs you nothing to wave and say hello. But at the same time, to be able to kind of build upon that communal experience that we have here at the university is so very important. And so to me, I take that as responsibility in response to a place that's given me so much. All I'm trying to do is repay the debt that Notre Dame has given to me in so many ways. So give us a little snapshot into your life here. Where do you live? Yep. And then and you relate so well to the students in a myriad of ways. Yep. But talk a little bit about your connection to your fellow Holy Cross priests, your brothers in Holy Cross, and how do you worship, and what do you do over at Corby Hall, et cetera? Yes, if you think about any given week, I'm oftentimes moving back and forth between Balmer Hall, where I live, the home of the Buccaneers, and then also Corby Hall, where I have meals and pray and attend Mass on occasion, because more often than not, my Mass is over in Balmer Hall. I have Mass Sunday through Thursday night with the men of Balmer Hall and anyone else who chooses to visit. What time is Mass at Balmer? Sunday nights, 10 o'clock, and then Monday to Thursday, 9 o'clock. It's a little bit more gentlemanly Monday through Thursday, but the Sunday night, you have to mentally prepare yourself. Right around 3 o'clock, you're thinking to yourself, okay, I still have something at 10 o'clock tonight. I need to rally. I need to rally. So it's really a blessing. Good crowds? You get good crowds? Yeah, absolutely. Sunday? And how many do you come to daily Mass, typically, or evening Mass? Yeah, during the week. Typically, at any point, we can have somewhere between 10 and 15. That's great. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And then Wednesday in Balmer Hall is Banana Bread Mass. So the guys this year decided that they were all going to start whipping up banana bread. Now, I did not think this would last. Yeah. I'm going to tell you right now, I thought this banana bread Mass would be the shortest lived Mass of all time. Yeah. And it turns out it's got more staying power than I thought. We just had this past week over 40 people. They did a merger. They did Balmer Hall and Ryan Hall all coming together, a little bit of a collab. Okay. And it was just awesome. Yeah. And so then they all streamed out and they had banana bread for everyone. That's fantastic. Do you like that? Is it well cooked? Oh, it's high quality banana bread. I highly recommend. M&Ms. I was trying to build it up the other day. I was like, this is a secret recipe. So don't go trying to like snoop around. I wanted to build some intrigue around banana bread masks.
That's fantastic. Okay, so I have to say, you and I got to know you better during COVID when we were charged together to work on a task force on how to reach out to the off-campus dynamic, not just off-campus students, but the off-campus dynamic, which was tough, especially during COVID. And I got to witness firsthand then your rapport, your connection, and your understanding of the students far surpassed anything that I've seen before. Also, humbled the heck out of me. I looked at it and said, I am not made for student affairs. I don't relate. I can't, this is like, I'm not there, not even close, but I was in awe, and I still am in awe of your ability to listen to understand the student, to be able to connect with them, to move them. Where does it come from, and how do you stay so grounded in your service as a campus minister, the leader of a team, working with our students?
Yeah, I think that there's some kind of nature versus nurture realities here. And in some instances, I've always had a deep appreciation for young people.
Yeah.
It's something that I've always been able to do really well and to relate with. And so to me, what I've been able to be in a situation, and it's clear that my seminary formators saw this early. I did not see this for myself. When I was at Moreau Seminary, I very much felt as if my next step was to work in a parish, and that's all I knew coming from the Diocese of Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
But yet, when they sat me down, they said, a first assignment, Assistant Rector Dillon Hall. Second assignment, Rector of Keogh Hall. Yeah. And I have just progressed and in terms of living with the students. When I was at Grand Valley State for undergrad, I didn't live in a single residence hall. And I remember graduating thinking to myself, man, I really missed an opportunity here to live in a dorm. Little did I know that starting in 2006, I would not leave one. And so I've been in a residence hall ever since 2006. And, spending time with those guys and getting a sense of what they care about. And then the other piece, Lou, and I think it's really important, is whenever I get invited, whenever it is possible, I will try to accept that invitation. Yeah. With one notable exception. I don't like, what do they call those things? Water tanks, where they put you in there. I hate those things.
Have you been doing it?
Listen, I do it on occasion, but only out of sheer desperation will I jump in those things and kind of get dunked over and over again.
This is great. You could be like the Gipper. You could catch pneumonia. Sometimes it's so cold when you set these things up going in and out of that tank. It is brutal.
Yeah. But that's really critical. So just finding time to meet them on their terms. One of the keys to evangelization here is for many, many years, people would come to the church. And while certainly that is the case on some levels, the church has to cultivate skills to go out. And we have to kind of leave the comfortable confines of the spaces that we know and enter into spaces that students would otherwise feel more comfortable, where you can have meaningful conversations with them. And so I'm always trying to think about what are those ways that perhaps I might be a little less comfortable, but at the same time, if the student that we're here to serve and to care for is in a position where they feel genuinely like they can be authentic, then there's something special about that.
Well, talking about spaces is a good segue to talk about the space that we're in, the log chapel, the oldest building on campus. It's you have a reverence for the past, the history, is a way of kind of informing where we are today and where we're going. Tell us a little bit about the sacred space in which we're in, and what is the relevance of it for us today and the work that you do in campus ministry?
I'm so grateful for this question, because when I think about this space, this is a replica of the original chapel that stood on the grounds when Father Soren and the Holy Cross Brothers arrived.
Right.
This one was rebuilt in about 1900, and it smells and frankly looks like it. The university's done a great job maintaining it, but it still has a little bit of an old-timey feel.
Right.
What I love about this space is it continues to be used to this day. Baptisms, masses, weddings. We just really genuinely try to make this a sacramentally rich place. It's a very powerful space. So one of the things that I think is really important in terms of what animates me is that this grave marker that we happen to be sitting near is that of Father Stephen Baden. Father Stephen Baden was a missionary. He came to this area, and ultimately it was him who received the deed, who purchased the deed, that ultimately the Congregation of Holy Cross accepted and then carried forth to establish the University of Notre Dame. Now, what's really cool about this is that Father Baden, I suppose, could have said, hey, look, this feels like work that I could do. But he knew what his role was. He knew that he was a missionary, so he gave the deed to the bishop of the state and then moved on. And that set up Soren and it set up the brothers.
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking about all the time is that because Baden understood what his role was, it allowed for providence to unfold in a very meaningful way, in a way that we now know it to be. And I think about then my responsibility in campus ministry, the responsibility of my team. How is it that we know our role, don't make it about ourselves, but actually seek, just as Baden did, to serve as vehicles for God's grace? And that's what this is about. I sometimes, like anyone else, can be competitive, and I want all the wins right now.
Yeah.
I want to see mass conversions, and I love that.
Yeah.
But what I have to, and I think what we have to think about as an institution is we are planting seeds that will bear fruit over the course of their lives.
Yeah.
Baden knew this, Soren knew this, so many others knew this. And so how do we now have the privilege of participating in it here in 24-25?
And it is extraordinary to think that more than 180 years later, the seeds that they planted are still bearing fruit.
Yes.
I mean, it is extraordinary to, we think about the time horizon of planting seeds, maybe it'll come up in a year.
That's right.
But to think that seeds that could germinate for that long into the future is an extraordinary way to look at it. Well, you're in charge, leading campus ministry with the faith formation of our students. Arguably, there could be no more a sacred task at hand. And that's a tall order, especially in these times, I think accelerated by COVID, where there seems to be a disaffiliation in the church, not just in the Catholic Church, but all churches across the board. How much do you wrestle with that in the challenges of the day and to make faith kind of be rekindled in our youth?
Yeah, Lou, it's such an important question. And it's one that I spend a lot of time thinking about. I think you have to be clear-eyed about it. You have to be clear-eyed about the fact that this group of students, I think sometimes in the national rhetoric, we can place the responsibility and the fault on those that we find on our campus. Like, how come they don't see the value of this thing?
Yeah.
But I actually flip it. I think we have to and I'm talking about the church, we have to take a good, clean look in the mirror here. How has the church been an evangelical witness of faith? How have we been good stewards with the responsibility and the power and the authority that we possess? How is it that we can continue to witness to these core gospel values and then back it up based upon our decisions?
Yeah.
So this generation of students, they have a very kind of high understanding and an intuition around authenticity. And I think if anything that has allowed me to be effective in this is because I genuinely seek to do that. But my hunch is that the work that we will do moving forward will require a genuinely authentic response and invitation, which is going to mean meaningful conversations to hear where their concerns are and their perspectives are, and to be able to walk alongside. This generation doesn't have any issue getting information. They can do a quick Google search or use ChatGPT or whatever they prefer to gather the information they need. They need help with people integrating it. In order to do that, they need people that they can trust. In order to do that, we have to slow down enough to establish communities. And this is where I think Notre Dame is so well suited. You look at our residence hall structures. You think in campus ministry, that our intention around small groups, retreats, pilgrimages, this is all geared towards creating environments where people can build trust, which then opens them up to more vulnerable and impactful conversations. And so faith, that's how it is translated.
Right.
I wish it were just easier that I could put a billboard up and that would just do it for folks, but that's just not the case. We're gonna have to be a part of the slow and methodical work of building relationships, of entering into people's lives, of loving them just as Jesus did, and then allowing the Holy Spirit to carry them forth.
That's beautifully said, and there's a lesson in that for all of us as parents and members of faith-based communities. Tell us a little bit about how big is the campus ministry staff?
Yeah.
And you work in a multitude of ways to reach our students in their faith formation. Can you kind of lay out a few of the different programs that you run through campus ministry?
If we were to focus on campus ministry, I'd say it's in three big buckets. Liturgical, pastoral care, student ministry. Liturgical is rather self-evident. This is the basilica. This is all the campus masses. Pastoral care, we cultivated this about 8 years ago, specifically around a need that our students had for more one-on-one guidance and mentorship. So this might be spiritual direction. This might be grief ministry. This might be accompaniment and discernment. These types of things that require more of a one-on-one sophisticated response. But at the same time, that if that's pastoral care and liturgy, then the third element is just as important, which is student ministry. Student ministry is probably what most people would expect when it comes to a campus ministry. This is retreats. This is pilgrimages. This is multicultural outreach. This is faith and justice. This is thinking about how can you do mass invitations to campus and invite people to programs that are robust and dynamic, and then allow students to first experience them, but then to help lead them. And we're constantly thinking about those movements. We want to make sure that we are offering things to students that they can not only participate in, but we have to remember the type of student that we have arriving to Notre Dame. They want to lead. They were at their high school and they were leading at a high level. While they're willing to come and be participants, and we want to make sure that they have the chance to do that, we also have to give them meaningful responsibility, because I think that is also a space where they can begin to serve as peer mentors and guides, which allows them to take ownership of this and then really genuinely build confidence so that they can carry it forward.
And it seems like you're always working to reinvent yourself.
You have to.
And so my understanding is that you and Father Nate Wills, who works in the Alliance for Catholic Education program, have teamed up to launch a podcast.
Yes.
Primarily kind of to reach out to our students, but it seems like it's got an audience even beyond that. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and what are the experiences today?
Yeah, so the name of it is, campus is, we've got North Quad, we have South Quad, we have God Quad, and now we have Pod Quad. So that was kind of the thought on this. It's myself and Father Nate. And what we're ultimately doing is really trying to kind of have these curiosity conversations with fascinating people and to say, hey, tell us about the thing that you love. What I wanted to be able to do was to be able to find a way that could be evergreen, so that people could see two Holy Cross priests doing something together. So often many people encounter Holy Cross in a singular lens at Mass or confession or a one-on-one meeting, whatever the case might be. And I just felt that it would be so important to create an environment where myself and Nate, we could get together and to be able to share something that we genuinely both care a lot about.
So is it mostly students that you're interviewing, or is it are there others?
Yeah, so right now we've had no students to date. But if we go into season 2, that is certainly an entire possibility. So right now we've had some great conversations with people like Father Kevin Grove, who teaches in the theology department. We've had Dean Marcus Cole, who is the dean of the law school, and so many others, really great people. Coach Neil Ivey, who did an awesome job. I could have had that conversation for like 3 hours.
That's
being
fantastic.
the hoops junkie that I am.
So we still have to sit back and see what the reviews and ratings come in like before we see whether this is season 2.
Yeah, we might not get renewed. We might find ourselves out on the street.
All right, fantastic. So you are a hoops junkie.
Yes.
So on top of everything else, you have been for a long time the chaplain for the men's basketball team. And it's a way, again, like you said, to integrate so many aspects of your Catholic ministry and priesthood. Tell us a little bit about that role, and then, inside it, there's been some talk that you might be offering a little coaching advice and so forth. So what do you think the prospects are? We're off to a great start this year, and the program is coming back, I think, in a big way. So give us, after a little overview, give us a little sense of where you think this program's going.
Yeah, I've had the privilege to be a part of this. I played in high school. No one needed a slow athlete coming into college, so that my time playing came to an end. Played a little rec ball, that kind of stuff. I officiated through college, and then I'll never forget, I finished officiating, I entered the seminary, and I thought, well, that's over. And I came to my first Notre Dame basketball game, and I looked down, I saw a priest at the end of the bench, and I thought, well, maybe this thing ain't over yet. And so I played the long game in order to get to the chaplaincy, and I've been in the role for the past 10 years. And when I first started, I was in awe, like anyone else would be, of being around these guys who compete at such a high level. But as I've spent more and more time, the grace of this has been to develop the relationships and to see how it is that these normal human beings who just happen to be taller and a bit more athletic really are grappling with the same things that we all grapple with. So to kind of accompany them and walk with them has been awesome. When it comes to the season, I really do believe in the culture Coach Shrewsbury is creating. He has a kind of a high accountability culture. He's doing a great job with recruiting, but even the guys that he has now are bought in. They understand. I've seen from year 1 now to year 2 the changes that have been made, and how it is that the guys are just buying in just a bit more, and we're going to begin to see continued success on the court.
It was really good to see them, just recently kind of beat up on those Jesuits. Georgetown on the road, at home, a big rivalry historically, and to see the team win by more than 20 points, and the intensity in their defense, but also the spacing on the offense, and it just really playing together really well. How many games will you get to be on the sideline for, typically?
Yeah, so I have this particular year, I'm going to do a home game schedule, and then I've got a good buddy of mine, Father Dan Parrish, who is going to help out with about 5 of the home games. Oh. Now, I've stopped traveling to away games just because of the responsibilities that I have on campus, except for over Christmas break, we're going to Georgia Tech. So I'm going to get out on the road, which I love. I love being out there. Back in the day, I used to be able to do it all the time. I've had the privilege, Lou, of being able to go to all the venues on the East Coast, and even like Pauley Pavilion out at UCLA. Yeah. Like, I've been so fortunate.
And you will celebrate Mass with the team before every game?
Yeah, we do Mass before every single home game. Mm-hmm. So the day before, so later today actually, I'm going to head over to the Jack, and we have Mass right in the locker room. Okay. It is an express Mass. We're talking about 15 minutes. If we hit 20, they're getting twitchy because I'm the only thing that stands between them and dinner. They've just practiced, they have Mass, and then they're heading to dinner. Yeah. So it's like a 15 to 20 minute Mass. And the way that I always frame it to them is to say, look, you got a lot of things, but in order to be a great team, you got to be in sync on a variety of different levels, and the spiritual is one of them. Yeah. So use this. And I always point out, like, look, there's other Power 4 conference teams that are not doing this at all. And we're probably the only ones who are making this type of concerted effort. Yeah. But I do believe that's a difference maker as opposed to a deterrent.
And do you bless still the kind of the medals, the saints of the day, and give them to them individually? Do they really cherish these medals?
What I say to the guys is I explain who a saint is, and I explain how it is that they live their lives so beautifully, and I remind them that all of us are called to the same thing. Catholic, not Catholic, secular, religious, it doesn't matter. We're all called to be good and holy people. And so these are great examples. And so what I always say to them is, hey, you've got a Gatorade cup somewhere back there. I want you to take that cup, and I want you to put it in your locker, and I want you to put all these medals in there. It can just be a spot. And if you're ever having a tough day or a tough week, be reminded that those saints that are just kicking it with you in your locker are great examples of holiness and a reminder for you what you're called to be.
Well, that's fantastic. That's really beautiful. So you said you were a rector, assistant rector before, and now in your campus ministry role, it would seem to me that the residence model, the residence life model, the dormitories, the halls, would seem to be a great distribution method model for you to kind of work toward the evangelization of our students. Yeah. How do you work with the rectors from campus ministry, and how do you reach the students through the residence halls?
Well, I want to say, first of all, Father Jerry Ollinger, who serves as the Vice President for Student Affairs, has an amazing team of people. One of them is the Associate Vice President for Residential Life, Karen Kennedy. And Karen and I have worked intentionally so to make sure that our 2 units are working together in a meaningful way. We think about and talk about thinking institutionally. What you want to always be careful of is that, does the Department of Campus Ministry and Residential Life, do they communicate? And how do they communicate? And how do we share resources? And how do we share a vision? So finding all these different ways to be able to meaningfully understand and engage, but you're absolutely right, Lou. That's where our students are at. That's where they're spending their time. Right. We have to make sure that we're finding ways to build those spaces up. There's been previous studies in the past that show a direct correlation that when you have a strong liturgical life and a strong spiritual life in a dorm, you also have a greater sense of belonging and community. So let's continue to build upon that, but I think that's an absolute critical spot, and you put your finger right on the pulse of it.
So one of the things that blows me away and watching you and other Holy Cross priests on campus is, just like the rest of us, you have full-time jobs. Yeah. But you are called, and sometimes the better you are as a priest, and you are exceptional at that, to perform weddings and baptisms and funerals all around the country and world. Yeah. I mean, there are so many weekends that when you reach the students and you're as popular as you are, and the longer you've been here, that they're graduating and out there of kind of marital age and, and having their children, How do you balance it all? And how do you have any guess, like how many weddings and baptisms and funerals you'll do in a year, roughly?
Any given year, from a weddings perspective, it's floated right between 10 and 12.
Okay.
Every given year. And then
that's 10 or 12 weekends in addition to everything else.
Right.
But you're there from pretty much soup to nuts.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Baptisms, I would say it probably is somewhere in the 10 to 20. And one of the things that, this is the beauty of being at Notre Dame. We have so many dynamic and engaging Holy Cross priests and then religious from other communities and diocesan priests who are surrounding the campus community. And so we're really blessed with a variety of personalities. And what I love most about that is that, we have a variety of students with different temperaments, spiritual backgrounds, perspectives. And so what Notre Dame is able to do in terms of accompaniment of those students is really powerful. But I think you're absolutely right that one of the critical responsibilities of the Congregation of Holy Cross is to make sure that we're attentive to the sacramental life, that is one of the elements of the secret sauce that make this place. We talk about division within our nation. We need to continue to find ways that bring people together, that unify them. And I think the Mass, the sacraments are moments where people, even though they might disagree on any number of things, can come together and truly be supportive of how it is that we are called to be children of God and disciples of Christ.
All right, this is going to be a really loaded and difficult question here. So we're at the end. Okay. You wear so many different hats at Notre Dame, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to look at this here. You're a priest. You are a leader of campus ministry. You're a mentor. You're a podcast host. You're a DJ. You're a team chaplain. Do any of these roles really jump out for you? Is there one that gives you more joy or meaning than the others? Or how do you think about all these disparate roles that you play within your priesthood and service to Notre Dame?
Yeah, Lou, it's fun. It's actually overwhelming to hear that entire list right now. I just broke out in hives. But genuinely, I just want to be a priest. All those things are in service to my priesthood. That's it. They're just the tools in a toolbox. But if you had to boil it all down, it really genuinely seeks to be about my priesthood, serving as a disciple of Christ, and giving my life away. That really is what this comes down to. It really has very little to do about me, and it really has everything to do with the gifts that God's given me, and it's my responsibility to share them.
And we're in the season now of Advent.
Yes.
And the birth of Christ, the celebration of Christmas is on the horizon.
Yes.
Tell us personally and through your ministry, what does Advent and Christmas mean to you?
I have so many fond memories growing up. This is an important time for my family. But as I've grown older, what I truly deeply appreciate is the anticipation of once again welcoming Christ into our midst. We can never grow tired of that. We must continue to ask ourselves, though, if I think about an example. When my grandmother would come over to the house, God rest her soul, when she'd come over to the house, we would clean the house, we would prepare. The last thing you wanted was grandma rolling into the house and not having everything kind of buttoned up.
Yeah.
So I think for us as spiritual pilgrims, this season of Advent affords us the chance to actually ask ourselves, how am I living? And when we celebrate the birth of Christ, will I be ready to receive the grace of that moment? And so I love that notion of preparation, of renewal, of conversion. There's something to be said about that. So that's what I'm most looking forward to.
I think one of the great gifts and graces of being a part of Notre Dame is it's a place where you constantly experience renewal.
Exactly.
There's a reminder of the sacred on a regular basis. And as much as we might kind of start to drift off track, this place pulls you back to what is important, what is sacred, what is at the heart of the matter.
Right on.
Could you maybe, Father Pete, could you perhaps close our session and offer a Christmas blessing?
Absolutely.
To all those who will watch this or listen to this podcast, and maybe close us off as we always do with a prayer to Our Lady, our Notre Dame, our patroness, Mary on the Dome.
Yes, absolutely. And Lou, before I do this, I want to thank you for being an excellent host and for being a great ambassador for the university. You're truly an inspiration to me, and it's an honor to be with you today.
Well, my goal is, I was trying to be on my best, the behavior here, just hoping that someday I'll get invited to your podcast.
Consider it an invitation.
I'm joking. I'm totally joking.
We got to get to season 2, man.
I know. It's like, if you make it, don't put me in season 1 because you won't get renewed.
And so let us pray. Loving and gracious God, as we prepare for the birth of your Son, Jesus Christ, please fill our hearts with your grace. Please fill our minds with your love. And always remind us that you are in our midst, Emmanuel. And may Almighty God bless you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Notre Dame, our Mother,
Pray for us. Take care. God bless. Merry Christmas to all of you and your families. Thank you for everything. Go Irish.